In a shocking turn of events, have the once friendly trade ties between Canada and the United States soured beyond repair? The unexpected storms sparked by President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods have propelled Ottawa into a corner, prompting decisive retaliation that has left Washington and the world in stunned silence. Gone are the days of quiet negotiations. Canada is not simply rolling over, they're raising the stakes. The trade conflict has spiraled beyond the realm of cars, steel, and dairy. Now, whispers of Canada wielding its natural resources as leverage have surfaced. Oil, gas, and precious minerals may just be the trump card they play. The message from Ottawa is clear: we have the power to disrupt industry in the U.S. if pushed. This situation raises pressing questions. Is the United States truly losing its grip? Who emerges victorious in this escalating showdown? Historically, U.S.-Canada disputes have been resolved quietly over boardroom tables, but now tensions are palpable, even tangible. Trump insists on protecting American industries, flaunting a series of threatening tariffs on everything from aluminum to auto parts. The impact was immediate. In a bold statement, Canada retaliated with a 25% tariff on $55 billion worth of American imports. This was not a calculated strike on a single product but a sweeping attack across a vast array of goods. The heart of the matter: are Canadians becoming the enemy, or is this merely a firm response to a challenging situation? This dramatic shift places the U.S. economy under threat. Canada, with its rich resources, has long been a cornerstone of American energy security. The oil sands of Alberta are critical, making Canada one of the largest oil-holding nations after Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. The proximity of Canadian resources has allowed disruptions to be felt swiftly and deeply in American markets. The White House is watching anxiously. What if Canada decided to curtail the flow of oil and natural gas? Such an action could spell disaster for Midwestern refineries, leading to skyrocketing fuel prices and inflation that could hurt American consumers profoundly. The reality is stark: Canada can reduce reliance on U.S. markets and redirect its resources elsewhere. The threat is not just a rhetorical volley, it holds weight. The Canadian economy might see short-term losses, but the government in Ottawa is asserting that they can withstand the storm. If America continues its tariff onslaught, Canada can redirect its oil and gas exports to Asia or Europe. While not easy due to established logistics, the demand for energy offers Canada leverage in this tumultuous game of trade chicken. Not to be overlooked, Canada is rich in minerals crucial for modern technology, from rare earth elements to lithium. Tapping into these resources could disrupt the U.S. semiconductor and electric vehicle markets, both highly dependent on Canadian supplies. If Canada plays its cards right, many American industries could falter. Ottawa's counterattack is structured in phases, starting with a 25% tariff on $30 billion of U.S. imports, targeting consumer goods that are integral to daily life. In the second wave, a more comprehensive assault is planned, involving automobiles, steel, and other industries wrapped up tightly with American jobs. This unexpected move aligns with a growing sentiment among Canadians: their patience is wearing thin. Will the American automotive industry weather this storm? Factory floors once humming with collaboration could fall silent if tariffs rise further. The stakes are high, and the pressure on Washington mounts as local producers cry out against the impact of lost markets. In a dramatic twist, it isn't merely goods that are being weaponized, the essential trust built over decades is at risk. Can negotiation still be a path forward, or has the world shifted too dramatically for a peaceful resolution? The answers are yet to unfold, but the echoes of each retaliatory maneuver will certainly resonate for years to come. What if the country that has quietly fueled your daily commute for generations suddenly decided that a simple tariff could shut the taps, leaving highways silent, factories coughing, and the price of a single gallon soaring beyond imagination? Could a single trade dispute unleash a chain reaction that reshapes North America's energy map, forces Washington into a high-stakes game of economic brinkmanship, and turns a long-standing neighbor into an unexpected adversary? Earlier we noted that Canada announced a 25% levy on $55 billion of U.S. imports. The move shocked markets, and ordinary Americans began to wonder whether their former friend had turned foe. Canada, renowned for its sprawling oil sands in Alberta, sits alongside giants like Arabia and Venezuela in global oil reserves. The United States, blessed with geographical proximity, has long enjoyed low-cost imports via pipelines and tankers, a backbone of its energy security for decades. Imagine the scent of diesel drifting northward, the hum of pumps humming in the night, and the steady flow of natural gas warming homes across the border. Canada supplies the second-largest share of U.S. natural gas, and its heavy crude fits seamlessly into Midwestern refineries, a compatibility far beyond what Russian or Middle Eastern oil can offer. If Ottawa chose to flip the switch, the result would be a sudden choke point, Midwestern refineries facing a crude shortage, fuel prices spiking, industrial costs climbing, and inflation flaring like a furnace. Canada knows the gamble. Its economy leans heavily on oil and gas revenues. And cutting supplies would bite its own purse. Yet the message is clear: a short-term loss is preferable to surrendering under tariff pressure. Ottawa hints at redirecting oil and gas to Asian and European markets, but existing pipelines and tanker routes favor the United States, making a swift pivot challenging. Still, the global thirst for energy grants Canada a bargaining chip that Washington cannot ignore. Can the United States endure a sudden blackout of Canadian minerals that power smartphones, electric cars, and aerospace engines? Beyond oil, Canada guards vast deposits of rare earths, nickel, uranium, zinc, copper, and lithium, elements vital to modern technology and defense. A Canadian embargo on these resources could cripple electric vehicle manufacturers, force semiconductor firms to scramble for alternatives, and send ripples through countless supply chains. Ottawa's retaliation plan unfolds in two stages. First, a 25% duty targets $30 billion of U.S. consumer goods, fresh foods, apparel, and household items effective early next year. The second phase would expand to $125 billion, potentially covering vehicles, steel, aluminum, aerospace components, and even beef and dairy. These tariffs strike at states with powerful lobbying groups: milk producers in Mississippi, cheesemakers in Wisconsin, whiskey distillers in Kentucky, chocolate factories in Pennsylvania. The pressure is designed to force Washington's hand from within. As the tariff war deepens, American automakers brace for cost spikes, electric vehicle prices wobble, and refinery operators whisper about a looming crude crisis. Meanwhile, Canadian officials warn they will seek new partners in Europe, Asia, or even elsewhere should U.S. pressures persist. The question looming over the border is whether this tit-for-tat will spiral into a full-blown economic showdown, reshaping the North American trade landscape for years to come. The fragile trade ties between Canada and the United States have recently been shaken by fierce turbulence. It all started when the United States imposed heavy tariffs on Canadian imports, prompting a historically unusual response from Ottawa. No longer content with mere diplomacy, Canada retaliated with bold measures that caught Washington and the global community off guard. In this escalating trade saga, the stakes are higher than ever. What began as a dispute over autos, steel, and agricultural products has morphed into a high-stakes game involving Canadian oil, natural gas, and essential mineral resources vital for American industry. With these resources at their disposal, Canada holds a powerful trump card that could rock the very foundations of U.S. energy security. As tensions rise, the question looms: is the United States on the verge of losing its grip? Canada has not only declared that they are willing to play hardball but is also hinting at an ability to divert their energy supplies to international markets, potentially leaving the U.S. vulnerable. But how would that impact the American consumer? In the midst of these complexities, Canada announced significant retaliatory tariffs, 25% on U.S. imports, totaling $155 billion. This two-phase response was strategically designed to affect not just one sector, but numerous facets of the American economy. The first phase alone targets roughly $30 billion in imports, encompassing everyday goods like food, clothing, and consumer items, thus ensuring an immediate impact on daily life. With the potential for job losses and increased costs looming, especially in industries heavily reliant on cross-border trade, American producers found themselves grappling with uncertainty. What would be the ripple effects in local economies that depend on Canadian imports? The whispers of crisis echoed through the halls of Washington as officials debated the ramifications of escalating tariffs. Now the United States must consider: how will this battle play out, and who will emerge victorious? As negotiations continue, the tension thickens. If Canada continues to retaliate, What uncharted territories might they explore next? Will they escalate further, disrupting essential supplies and igniting widespread discontent? The fate of industries hangs in the balance. The roaring engines of the auto industry, the bustling assembly lines, and the quiet operations of tech companies depend on stable trade relations. As the clock ticks down to the implementation of these tariffs, the question remains: how much longer can both nations afford to let tensions rise? With every passing moment, the drama intensifies, promising a showdown that could change the landscape of North American trade forever. In a stunning twist of fate, the long-standing camaraderie between Canada and the United States has been thrust into turmoil. A sudden shift sparked by high tariffs imposed by former President Donald Trump has turned friendly trade relations into a battlefield. Canada, often known for its measured diplomacy, has opted for decisive action. This bold response leaves both Washington and global observers reeling. Canada has announced retaliatory measures that could reshape the trade landscape. Beginning with a 25% tariff on $30 billion worth of American goods, this first phase marks a radical departure from Canada's typically polite negotiating stance. What triggered this surprising shift? The answer lies in a growing realization that Canada holds powerful cards to play, especially in the realm of energy. Imagine this: Canada, the world's energy powerhouse, possesses vast reserves of oil and natural gas right in its Alberta oil sands, rivaling giants like Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. For decades, American industry has relied on this steady energy supply, but now Ottawa is considering using that very leverage against the U.S. Could the nation truly cut off vital energy resources? What would that mean for American consumers watching prices skyrocket at the pump? Following Trump's harsh trade threats, covering everything from aluminum to dairy, Canada retaliates with measured fury. The initial phase has already set the stage for broader implications. What happens in the second phase, looming like a storm cloud on the horizon? This strategy encompasses a sweeping 25% tariff on an astounding $125 billion in imports. Vehicles, machinery, and food products, including dairy and even chocolate, are all on the chopping block. The U.S. automotive industry, long intertwined with Canadian suppliers, finds itself in a precarious position. As tensions rise, the delicate balance that has characterized trade agreements for years hangs by a thread. Could this escalating conflict lead American manufacturers to seek alternatives elsewhere? And how will the Commons react when their favored Canadian neighbor turns the heat up in retaliation? Public sentiment in Canada has rallied around this unexpected assertiveness. Citizens, once patient allies, are now voicing their frustrations over repeated tariffs that threaten their economic interests. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, alongside his ministers, has publicly declared that Canada will not shy away from confrontation in the face of unfair trade practices. But will this assertiveness bolster or fracture the relationship they've nurtured for so long? As Canada prepares for the potential fallout of its bold posturing, the real question remains: who truly holds the upper hand in this escalating trade rivalry? Will Canada's strength in energy and minerals tip the scales, or will America's industrial might prove to be an unstoppable force? One thing is certain: this confrontation is just beginning, and the repercussions will be felt by both nations in ways yet to be imagined. In a surprising turn of events, the long-standing trade relationship between Canada and the United States is facing unprecedented turbulence. It all began when the former U.S. president imposed heavy tariffs on Canadian goods, sparking a fierce response from Ottawa. This wasn't just business as usual. Canada decided to play its trump card, sending shockwaves through Washington and leaving international analysts scratching their heads. The stakes are higher now than ever before, with not just cars and steel in the crosshairs, but something much more fundamental: oil and natural gas. Canada's vast reserves make it one of the largest energy suppliers to the U.S. This dependence means that the Canadian government holds a significant bargaining chip. Can they really afford to turn off that tap? The threat looms large, as Ottawa suggests that if the tariff war escalates, they might restrict oil and gas shipments, leaving American refineries scrambling for alternatives. The atmosphere is charged with tension, as tankers wait on the docks, and pipelines hum with potential energy that could either fuel or cripple industries on both sides of the border. The Trump administration's rhetoric, labeling the relationship as unfair, echoes through the halls of power. "We need to protect our producers," he declared, but now he's facing a counteroffensive. Canada's retaliatory tariffs on over $55 billion worth of American goods are sharp and precise, a strategic maneuver aimed at vulnerable sectors. Suddenly, products ranging from aluminum to everyday groceries are caught in the crossfire. And ordinary American consumers are left wondering, has Canada become an adversary? The answer to that question is underscored by growing concern within the U.S. automotive industry, which has thrived on seamless trade with its northern neighbor. As tariffs rise, production costs could skyrocket, spellbinding auto manufacturers in a dance of anxiety. The fear is palpable. What if electric vehicle costs climb higher, or what if essential parts suddenly become scarce? Can they navigate this storm without capsizing their own enterprises? Meanwhile, the ramifications of Canada's strategy stretch far beyond just consumer goods. The nation is venturing into the realm of technology, announcing plans to impose tariffs on critical sectors, potentially disrupting American ambitions in electric vehicles and high-tech components. The words of Canadian leaders resonate clearly: if we're blocked, we will retaliate. What does that mean for American innovation, especially when industries like Silicon Valley start to feel the pressure? As the air thickens with uncertainty, Canadians are rallying behind their government's bold stance. Traditionally known for their politeness, the people have seemingly reached a boiling point. They are united in their belief that fair trade shouldn't come at their expense. Does this mark a new chapter in Canadian foreign policy, one where they refuse to play the role of the obedient neighbor? The outcome of this standoff could redefine not just trade rules but shake the very foundations of North American cooperation. Caught in this complex web of tariffs and counter-tariffs, the question lingers: who will emerge victorious? The answer remains elusive. As both nations plot their next moves, the world watches, holding its breath in anticipation. The fates of consumers and corporations hang in the balance, and the next chapter in this unfolding saga might just reshape the economic landscape of an entire continent. The intricate web of trade between Canada and the United States is currently facing unexpected upheaval. Once a symbol of friendship and cooperation, this relationship has been met with a fierce storm of tariffs and retaliations. The catalyst? Heavy tariffs introduced by the former U.S. President Donald Trump. In an exciting twist, Canada has decided to take a stand, shifting from its historically polite approach and entering the arena of fierce economic conflict. With recent developments, it now seems that this trade saga isn't just about autos, steel, or agriculture anymore. Notably, Canada is hinting at a trump card: the vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and essential minerals critical to the U.S. industry. The implications are staggering. Could Canada, in retaliation for U.S. tariffs, actually disrupt the American energy supply? As tensions surge, observers are left gasping for answers. With both nations at an impasse, who will emerge victorious? In a striking declaration, Canada announced retaliatory tariffs of 25% on an astounding $55 billion worth of U.S. goods. The response is shockingly broad, targeting fresh foods, clothing, and even aluminum. American consumers are left wondering, has Canada suddenly become the enemy? With these tariffs hitting hard, ordinary citizens begin to question their leaders more fervently than ever. The air is thick with uncertainty and outrage. What drives Canada to engage in such a bold maneuver? The nation, long considered a subordinate trading partner, has decided to fight back. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with his team, is sending loud signals: if you attack us, we will respond fiercely. This new reality sets the stage for all-out trade warfare, challenging traditional notions of diplomacy in favor of a more aggressive economic posture. As Canada's retaliation escalates, the worries ripple through the corridors of Washington. The automotive sector is petrified. The smooth flow of trade could soon be shattered by the looming threat of tariffs. Electric vehicle costs, already steep, could rise even higher, striking the wallets of American families. Everyone can almost feel the tension, the looming crisis pressing against their senses. And behind every decision lies a profound strategic plan. Canada recognizes that while it risks short-term losses, it possesses leverage that could alter the landscape of international trade. The notion of diverting shipments to Asian markets or Europe looms ominously over negotiations. Canada's newfound strength hints that for the first time, it is not merely a player in the economic game but a formidable opponent capable of dictating terms. But wait, could Canada seriously limit the supply of critical minerals, such as lithium and uranium, essential for modern technology and the electric vehicle boom? This possibility has alarmed many industries, creating an undercurrent of panic. As industries scramble to respond, the question remains, will the U.S. reassess its approach before it finds itself in a precarious position? In a dramatic turn of events, the second phase of Canadian tariffs will hit a staggering $125 billion in U.S. imports, with potential repercussions that can unsettle entire sectors of the economy. Will American farmers, garment makers, and tech giants buckle under the pressure? The stakes are raised, and time will tell if this is merely a trade battle or the dawn of a new era in Canadian-American relations. As tensions build, Canada's once conciliatory tone has turned defiant, reshaping perceptions of its economic standing. The landscape is shifting, and the aftermath of these actions may reverberate for years to come. The world watches closely, anxious to see how this high-stakes game unfolds. Will rational heads prevail, or will the predicament spiral out of control, leading to more significant consequences than anyone anticipated? The unpredictable nature of this trade squabble leaves everyone in suspense, waiting for the next move. The answer could change everything. In the world of trade, an unexpected storm brews between two long-standing allies, Canada and the United States. For decades, their relationship has been characterized by friendly exchanges and mutual growth. However, that peace has been shattered by a series of bold moves initiated by U.S. President Donald Trump, who has imposed heavy tariffs on Canadian imports. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is no longer following the usual path of politeness. Ottawa is ready to play its own cards in this escalating trade war. The stakes are high, and Canada is prepared to unleash its trump card, its vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and strategic minerals that are essential to U.S. industries. This confrontation raises shocking questions. Can the U.S. really afford to push Canada too far? The tariff battle isn't limited to cars and dairy anymore. Canada is threatening to cut off energy supplies that keep the U.S. economy moving. As the possibility of disrupted oil and gas shipments looms, American industries begin to sweat. Imagine refineries in the Midwest watching fuel prices soar as their lifelines are threatened. With the tension mounting, one must wonder who will be left standing as this standoff pushes both nations to the brink. In an unprecedented move, Canada announced retaliatory tariffs amounting to 25% on a staggering $55 billion worth of American goods. This is not a simple tit-for-tat, it's a calculated response that sends a clear message: Canada can hurt the U.S. economy too. As politicians and manufacturers in America face the shocking reality of lost markets, the question arises, how far will this retaliation continue? What's even more compelling is how these actions are rallying Canadian public support. A surprising sense of national pride emerges as citizens stand behind their government's firm response, shifting the narrative from neighborly support to a fierce declaration of self-sufficiency. No longer dependent, Canada reveals its plans to strengthen ties with other markets, including the EU and Asia-Pacific partners. With electric vehicles at the forefront of innovation and industry, Canada holds crucial minerals that American manufacturers desperately need. The very components that power electric cars might soon come with a significant price hike if tariffs continue. As tensions rise, can the U.S. afford to grind against a trade partner who has awakened their formidable side? In the heart of this swirling conflict lies a ticking clock. The Canadian government executes its two-stage retaliation plan, asserting a 25% tax on $155 billion in annual imports from the U.S. The first phase targets not just luxurious exports, but essential consumer goods ranging from food to electronics. How will the average American respond when their daily essentials suddenly become more expensive? The political pressure could become unbearable for Washington, forcing them to reconsider their approach. Amid all this chaos, whispers of collaboration from Canada suggest a willingness to pivot towards alternative suppliers if relations don't improve. But the question lingers, what would happen if they form alliances that bypass the U.S. altogether? As both sides brace for impact, the future of trade hangs in the balance. Will Canada embrace its newfound assertiveness and emerge victorious, or will the U.S. clamp down in a show of strength? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear, the trade war is far from over, and both nations will need to navigate these turbulent waters carefully. The question remains, who will be the final victor in this unfolding drama? In a striking showdown, the intricate web of trade relations between Canada and the United States is on the brink of a seismic shift. For decades, these neighboring nations have collaborated closely, but recent events have introduced unexpected storms that could upend this friendly alliance. The tensions began abruptly, ignited by high tariffs imposed by former President Donald Trump, igniting a fierce response from Ottawa. Canada, often seen as the polite neighbor, has decided to play a bold hand, signaling a departure from its usual diplomatic demeanor. What unfolded next was nothing short of remarkable. In retaliation for the tariffs targeting sectors from steel to agriculture, Canada revealed its trump card, oil and natural gas. These precious resources are the lifeblood of the American industry, making Canada an indispensable partner. As the leaders in Ottawa strategized, a chilling message resonated: the U.S. might soon feel the sting of its own decisions. With escalating tensions, Canada is ready to turn off the energy tap, leaving Washington to wonder who holds the real power in this trade war. Over the years, negotiations between these two countries have typically ended with agreements reached discreetly. However, this time feels entirely different. Trump's threats rang loud, heavy tariffs on Canadian imports loomed like dark clouds. The ripple effects were immediate and harsh. Canadians were quick to respond, announcing a staggering 25% tariff on $55 billion worth of American goods. The decision left many in the U.S. asking, has Canada become an adversary? The stakes grew higher as Canada announced its intention to retaliate significantly across broad sectors, not merely targeting individual products but strategic goods pivotal to American interests. Ordinary Americans were soon confronted with rising prices on items from dairy to automobiles. The simple question echoed, why are these costs climbing? The answer, rooted in the escalating trade conflict, loomed ominously. Canada's energy resources, especially its vast oil sands, play an essential role in American energy security. For decades, the U.S. has depended on Canadian imports for its energy needs. As the situation spiraled, Canada was positioned to wield this influence as leverage. The U.S. was left grappling with the frightening idea of an energy crisis if Canada decided to cut supplies in response to tariffs. The urgency of the moment was palpable. As negotiations escalated, the landscape morphed. Canadian officials warned of losing market access for critical goods like rare earth minerals essential for modern technology. The implications stretched far beyond just energy, signaling a potential catastrophe for American industries reliant on these materials. From car manufacturers to technology firms, the shadow of tariffs hung menacingly over the future. With each retaliatory move from Canada, the narrative evolved. The country's strategy was meticulously calculated. By targeting sectors with strong lobbying power, Canada aimed to influence U.S. domestic politics directly. The cry from manufacturers in states with strong agricultural lobbies resonated: stop this trade war, or face dire consequences. As the tensions mounted, U.S. officials were left scrambling for solutions. They could either rethink their strategy or brace for economic turmoil. The ambitious Canadian response included plans to impose tariffs on crucial technological goods if the U.S. persisted in its aggressive stance. Deliberate moves designed to make Washington take notice forced the conversation to shift. If Canada succeeded in redirecting its trade relationships, especially in the electric vehicle sector, this could redefine their trading dynamics for years to come. As the country navigated these turbulent waters, a blend of urgency and optimism surged through Canadian sentiments. The narrative was clear: Canada was no longer merely a bystander in negotiations, it was an empowered player rewriting the rules of engagement. The outcome remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: this newfound resolve would send ripples through every sector affected by these escalating trade tensions. The ongoing trade conflict between Canada and the United States has escalated to a level that neither side anticipated. As the United States has imposed high tariffs, Canada has countered with robust measures, shaking the foundations of their long-standing economic alliance. Both nations stand at a crossroads where the stakes have never been higher. With tariffs affecting a range of American goods, can Canada assert its strength in this trade battle, or will it suffer the consequences of a high-stakes game? In an unexpected twist, Canada has threatened to wield its natural resources as a bargaining chip. By playing the energy card oil and natural gas, Canada risks turning the tides against the United States. The severed link of oil imports could lead to soaring prices and heightened inflation, leaving American consumers gasping for relief as their wallets shrink. But does Canada have the resolve to follow through with such drastic measures? As tensions rise, both nations feel the pressure. Trump's administration claims unfair trade practices, insisting on protecting American producers. In response, Canada has declared its intention to introduce a series of significant tariffs on American goods. The roar of discussion fills the trade rooms in Ottawa and Washington as officials scramble to assess the risks and rewards of this escalating conflict. What's shocking is that Canada's retaliation is far from random, it's calculated. They've zeroed in on sectors that hold significant lobbying power, targeting everything from industrial machinery to beloved products like whiskey and chocolate. This laser-focused strike has the potential to rock U.S. domestic politics. But what happens if this war drags on? As U.S. manufacturers brace for the oncoming storm, the question looms, can the United States maintain its grip on automotive and technological superiority? Or will the tariffs cripple their industries, enabling Canada to emerge as a surprising victor in this trade duel? Now the clock is ticking, and the lines are drawn. With each passing day, the potential for new retaliatory strikes grows. Canada flexes its muscles, showing that it won't back down easily. But how long can they withstand the repercussions of a trade war? The future of electric vehicles hangs precariously in the balance. Will prices for American consumers skyrocket, or will cooler heads prevail? What lies ahead? Share your thoughts on this unfolding drama, and consider the profound implications of this trade confrontation on the global stage. The outcomes of these tensions could redefine trade practices for years to come. In this era of uncertainty, who will truly emerge victorious?